everybody, it's Tanya, and today we're going to review a book that I have recently finished reading and was extremely disappointed in, especially considering how it's so hyped and very often recommended. It just didn't do it for me, and there are many reasons as to why. The Atlas 6 is a book that centers around 6 magicians, and they have sort of a Triwizard tournament, except it's for the Alexandrian Society. So these 6 very talented wizards are chosen by the society to compete in a sort of academic year, and 5 of them can enter the society and 1 gets eliminated. I mean, it's not a profoundly original concept, but it can be interesting, right? Well, trust me, it was not. So the book was no plot, just vibes, which usually I'm on board with. I'm all for a character-based story. It's the type of person I am. I get emotionally invested in characters. But this book had nothing going for it in terms of character development or even unique character voice. And every single character in this book is absolutely insufferable. And not in a good way, not in a love to hate them kind of character, which I'm on board with the character you can hate. I love those characters. But in this book, they were all insufferable because they were so boring to read about. It was so tedious. I can't believe I actually got through it. So you've got a full cast of insufferable, boring characters within a pretty cool setting. The least you can do is utilize the setting. It is the library which contains the most expansive amount of knowledge in the world, and the book doesn't even use it to its advantage. Okay, so you've got characters who suck, a pretty cool setting which you don't even use. Can still be salvaged, right? Well, no, because you don't really care what happens. There is no plot. And when there's no plot, the characters need to carry the story. That doesn't happen in this book. The characters couldn't even carry a napkin, much less a 500-page story. The only characters who I was genuinely interested in were Gideon and Ezra, but you know, after we find out what there is to find out about Ezra, I'm not going to spoil it. So I was really interested in Gideon's story, and what we got was basically just like breadcrumbs to nothing. It was underwhelming, and I was also pretty interested in Ezra's story, which, if you know, you know, it only gets interesting somewhere around the middle, maybe even closer to the end of the book. But we also got virtually nothing in terms of Ezra, so that falls flat to me. Okay, so all of your main characters are insufferable, and there are 2 characters who are actually interesting and could salvage this story, and what do? Barely use them, because that's how we do it. I realized that she was probably doing this in order to write a sequel, which, granted, she did, but it's just teasing you and giving you absolutely nothing in terms of quenching that thirst, you know what I mean? The third thing I find so annoying about this book is the writing. And that is not to say that Olivia Blake is a bad writer, but the way the characters talk is... God, it's insufferable. They have all these like half-baked pop philosophy metaphors, which really doesn't work. It just sounds like intellectual snobbery. It sounds like people trying to be smarter than they actually are. To me, it's just trying to throw a bunch of philosophy and science in your face. Things that don't have any substance whatsoever, but just sound smart. And I just really hate that sort of thing. I could not stand it. I was visibly cringing while reading it. For me, the worst of it comes when they're studying or trying to practice, when Libby and Tristan try to move through time together, and The way they talk about it in terms of science it's really cringy. I have no other word to describe it except cringy. The entire book is just cringe. I do believe that the writer has a pretty great writing style. I would just like to see it utilized within a story that has far more depth and more interesting characters. I would like to see her use unique character voices, not just sprinkle pop philosophy throughout her novel. And when you're writing a series, you can't just have the whole first book be an exposition. You have to give us something. You can't save all the meat for the next one. It just doesn't work like that. You have to give the audience at least a little something in the first book. A little might not even be enough, honestly. If the story had a bit more focus on Gideon and Nico, maybe I would be more interested. If we would have found out more about Ezra, if the characters were more distinguishable by the way they speak, there's 1,000 ways this book could have been better, but it just wasn't. Needless to say, I am not going to be reading the sequel. I am not putting myself through that, no way. And I would just like to show you the only redeeming factor about this book. First of all, the cover is pretty gorgeous, but there are these gorgeous drawings of the characters throughout the book. I think it does help you see what each character is about, but they fall so flat when it comes to personality that it doesn't really matter, does it? Just a bunch of beautiful pictures with no substance to them. So the next time someone recommends the Atlas 6 on their big Dark Academia book recommendation list, I'd say just ignore it, avoid it. If you do like a story with substance, it's just not for you. It wasn't for me, and I would avoid this series like the plague. Okay, that's it everybody. Thank you so much for watching. It's totally okay if you liked the Atlas 6. Let me know down in the comments why you liked it or why you didn't like it. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!